Hi, this is Jim Feist in Las Vegas. Check out my plays each and every day on Vegas Sports Masters. I'm on a 60% run in the NBA and NHL and finished the NFL season 23 and 7. I've got a daily 3 packs of plays in the NBA and NHL available today, right now. If you want to get this week, service all plays, just $29. That's right, just $29 for all plays, including a $500 high roller. Just call 888-777-4155 and use the code words 7 Days of Winners. Now stay tuned as Dave Cokin and I break down the sports weekend in college and pro basketball.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Proline, the longest-running sports handicapping show on the planet. It's not just America, it's on the planet. We're coming to you direct from Las Vegas. Jim Feist is here. I'm Dave Cokin, and it's nice to have you with us. We've got basketball news, notes, and matchups. First, Jim, you finished the NFL on a monster run, 23 and 7. You're 60% in the NBA this season, and nice weekend in the colleges with your payback game of the month. That was Cal plus the points against Arizona, and the Golden Bears got the cover there.
Well, you know, Dave, they're all getting ready for the conference tournaments now, and we're really focused in on who's trying and who's not. So the things have been going pretty well. I have a 3-pack of NBA plays available online.
All right. Let's do our poll question of the week. Every Monday on our social media networks, we post a Proline poll question, and then we announce the results right here on the show. And this week, we decided to look at the NBA. And, look, Cleveland is clearly the favorite in the Eastern Conference and one of the favorites to repeat as NBA champions. But they have to still win the games. And we asked the question, what NBA Eastern Conference team has the best chance of upsetting the defending champion Cavs in the playoffs? Jim, what's the winner?
Well, the winner, you know, Dave, we have to discuss this a little bit because in the last couple of hours, we've had some changes. But the winner is, from the poll question, 48% chose the surging Boston Celtics, and they have been red hot. 43% went with the Washington Wizards, 6% Toronto, and 3% Atlanta. However, I don't know how that would have changed if they knew Serge Ibaka was going to Toronto. What do you think? Would they have looked at Toronto a little bit more seriously? I believe they would.
No, because Toronto's recent form has been lousy. And I think most bettors and most fans have a tendency to remember only the last couple of things they saw. We see that trend every week in the National Football League, where a team gets hot for a week or two and all of a sudden they get very popular at the betting windows. It doesn't mean they can't get there, by the way. We saw a good example of that with the Packers. I mean, people betting them week after week after week down the stretch, really based on what they were just doing recently. The sharp guys were coming in on the other side and actually losing, even though they were getting value. So I'm not surprised with Toronto's getting a little support, and I don't think the Hawks have done much to generate it. I would agree with the poll, with the people who responded. With the Celtics, I think they are the closest. The Wizards are playing well. There's no denying that. I just don't know. I don't think the Wizards are much of a threat to Cleveland just on matchups. Although the last game they played them, they took them to overtime. But Boston.
Kevin Love is now out for 6 weeks.
Well, yeah, and we'll have to see what he's like when he comes back. And J.R. Smith has been hurt, obviously, so they don't have their full complement right now. The Celtics are interesting because I think, you know, they're in such a good position as far as having draft choices. They can make a deal. And as it is right now, I think they're the second best team in the East. Well, what happens if they add somebody of significance at the deadline? That to me would make them more than just a chatter threat, one that you throw out there. Well, you know, Cleveland's got to play somebody. Isaiah Thomas is playing an unbelievable basketball for this team. And you got Horford. You know that guy would love to get himself a ring. I think the Celtics have a chance against Cleveland. Now, I would certainly not make them the favorite in the series. Cleveland would still be a very significant favorite, but if the odds are big enough, I might take a shot there.
Look at the Celtics. They're 19-8 straight up at home, 17-11 away, number 7 in NBA scoring, 15 in points allowed, 12th in field goal defense. They're 10-1 straight up, 6-5 ATS run. They've been hot. I agree with everybody saying that they're the number one choice to knock off Cleveland. But I think the poll question was answered properly.
Yeah.
I do think we have to look at what happens when Ibaka goes to Toronto and see how they start to play differently. They need some help on the defensive end, and that could help.
Yeah, I mean, DeRozan and Lowry are a dynamite combination, but neither one, and it's just my opinion, I could be dead wrong in this. I don't look at either one and say, boy, that guy's a stopper. I think they have more offense than defense. And playoffs, you gotta be able to stop the other guys. It's that simple. Defense still, to me, wins championships, and I thought we saw it last year. Golden State was an absolute monster offensively, but Cleveland found a way to kind of take them out of their rhythm in the championship series when they were down 3-1, and they got it done. It's gonna be fun. Now, the NBA playoffs will be fun. I mean, Golden State, San Antonio, these are legit teams, and Cleveland and maybe somebody else from the East could be a lot of fun. If you want to ask us any Vegas sports wagering questions, go to ProlineTV.com and just ask whatever you want. And Jim, folks can get 7 days of action for free just by subscribing.
That's right, Dave. Click on the subscribe button at Proline TV and get a week of service free on me. Plus, go to JimFeist.com for free stats, articles, videos, my free fast facts, and plays from the nation's top handicappers.
All right, and when we come back, we'll actually get into a college basketball matchup that should be a lot of fun. Kansas and Baylor. Kansas is coming off one of the wildest games of the season. That was an absolutely unbelievable game against West Virginia. Baylor's had some struggles lately, so a lot to talk about in that game. We'll do that next. All right, so we're going to talk some college basketball here. We get Kansas, Baylor, and then the USC UCLA rematch is on Saturday as well. Let's start with Kansas and Baylor. And Kansas survives an absolutely incredible game on Monday where they're down and hopelessly out against West Virginia and come back with just an incredible rally down the stretch. I tweeted at the time, are these the West Virginia Falcons? Because they just they just fell apart down the stretch. That was right after I had tweeted that West Virginia, maybe I jinxed them. I tweeted West Virginia is selling itself as a legit national championship contender. I mean, that was a brilliant performance for 35 minutes at Fogg Allen Fieldhouse, which is arguably the strongest home court in the country. And in the last 5 minutes, they melted down. Kansas took advantage, and then the Jayhawks win it in overtime. Demoralizing loss for West Virginia. Kansas, however, they have to be thrilled coming out of a game like that. And that's they have to be believing after a game like that. And I don't think Kansas is a top 5 team, but I'll guarantee you they think they are after coming back like that. And we'll see if they carry forward that momentum into Waco on Saturday against a Baylor team that suddenly kind of needs a win.
Well, the Jayhawks, all these teams now, they've all played 26, 28 games, and there's a fatigue factor that comes into play. And many of these teams are pointing towards the conference tournaments, and of course there's tournaments thereafter for some of these teams as well, most of them actually. So the focus, I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, Dave, that teams are giving up big first half leads. Yeah. And they're falling, like even last night, Pittsburgh played Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech had just come off beating Virginia, and it was a monster game for them to win. So they came out flat.
Plus, they're down a guy.
Yeah, they're down a guy. Right. They come out flat. Pittsburgh takes off, goes crazy, gets a big lead, goes to halftime with a 10-point lead. Second half, Virginia Tech wakes up. Pittsburgh goes into the cave like they usually do, and they lose the second half by 13, won the first half by 10. So, what I've noticed, and this is just a betting tip for people out there are first and second half bets on all these games. And this is the time of year when even though these are kids and they generally don't get tired about anything, they do get tired. They do get physically worn down, and they are somewhat looking ahead to the tournaments. So I think when you look at betting a game, not only look at the entire game, look at the first half and try to visualize what you think is going to happen with these teams first half, second half. There are opportunities there to make some extra money. Baylor's tough, 22-4. They're not great against the number. A lot of overrated teams out there, 4-9 ATS run. But, look at the Kansas side. They're 23-3. They're 4-10-1 ATS. When you look at these teams, they simply are overrated when it comes to the odds makers. You would burn your money betting on both these teams so far this year.
Well, and one of the problems for Kansas, and it did show up a little bit in the game on Monday again. I think they missed about 11 free throws in the game. They're a really lousy foul shooting team, and that is going to get them in trouble in the NCAA tournament. You can't go out there and shoot 65% from the free throw line, especially with the number of fouls that are called in today's college basketball. If you're leaving that many points off the board when you get to the big games in March, you're going to lose. And that's why I don't have Kansas. I think on paper, if you just look at the physical talent of the team, Kansas can match up with anybody. But one of their problems is that foul shooting. It stinks. And in fact, it's the reason they actually didn't cover in the overtime. Because Kansas, you actually almost got a bad beat of sorts with Kansas minus the points in overtime. Obviously, you were lucky to get to the overtime. But they missed a bunch of free throws in the overtime and ended up not covering. Baylor is not playing well right now. The overall number is 22-4, but you mentioned the poor spread record lately, and they just don't look like the same team that they were earlier in the season. The idea is to get better as conference play rolls along, and I think Scott Drew's team's going a little bit backwards. So I'm not. I'd like to look for revenge matchups, and this is a revenge game for Baylor, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pull the trigger on him here.
Well, to me, it's going to depend on the number, of course, and it will to you as well. A lot of these teams build up great records and statistics in the first part of the year playing teams that are not that good, and they run up numbers. And that doesn't work so well when they get into conference play, especially a conference like this where there's so many teams that are really close. I mean, the first time they played this year was a 6-point game. They covered the number of the 6.5-point dog. I'm talking about Baylor.
The game was tied with about 2 minutes to go.
It was. As a matter of fact, the final was 5. It was 73-68 on February 1st. So they did cover that number. I look for another close game. I think it will be within 4 or 5 points at the end, and it's going to come down to the free throw shooting, of course. And sometimes it's better just to play the team that can shoot some free throws at the end of the game, because that means they can hold on to a lead, and that plays out real. The end game in college basketball, the way the rules are, really makes a big difference.
All right, let's look at this USC and UCLA game. I think it's the most interesting game on the board this entire weekend, because UCLA is obviously one of the most exciting teams to watch in the country. But the one team that's been a nemesis for them the last couple of years has been USC. They lost both meetings last year. Everybody was talking about this is a huge revenge game for them, the first meeting this year at Pauley Pavilion. They lost that as well. USC comes in and beats them straight up. And the problem for UCLA over and over again has been, while their offense is sensational, they can't defend. However, now here's where it gets interesting to me. They were down 19 points against Oregon. And that's it. The game's over. Only it wasn't. The second half, UCLA played the best defense they've played all season. I do think Oregon led up with a big lead, which we've just talked about. These teams are unable to maintain their intensity for 40 minutes for some reason. I think Oregon relaxed. But UCLA still had to guard them in the second half. They did. And I'll be interested to see if they can bring that same defensive intensity and execute a defensive game plan, because that's what this team is going. It's great to go out there and score a ton of points and play Warrior-style basketball, but again, if you can't stop the opponent when the big games come, you won't win. Well, UCLA got themselves a win and a great comeback against Oregon. Does that carry forward here in terms of their defensive play and enable them to get a victory against the team that they really want to beat?
Yeah, and they have not been, as you said, they have not been able to handle this team. You know, this is not a real road game for anybody. These guys are in the same city. It's a car ride. And when you look at the 21-5 for USC in the Pac-12, they're 8-5, 7-5 run straight up, 4-1 ATS run. USC is playing pretty good basketball overall. They don't have the talent, in my opinion, on the floor that a UCLA has, especially offensively. But UCLA has been one of those money burner teams.
Oh, man.
2-11 ATS run. I mean, this team just doesn't cover numbers. Now you go put them in a game here. Yes, they have revenge, but they've had revenge forever against this club, and they've not been able to handle them. It's one of those matchup issues, and there's some incredible talent. Lorenzo Ball is pretty much, you can't defend the guy. But did you see what his brother did?
Well, yeah, I did, and that was a joke because he barely ever crossed half court. I mean, he just stood. He just stood at the other end of the court, and waited for them to get the ball and throw it to him. That was kind of a joke. You know, that's not meant as an insult to the kid, because he's clearly got a ton of talent, and I assume he's probably going to follow in his brother's footsteps and head to UCLA. But the coach ought to be ashamed of himself at that high school. I thought that was disgraceful. More talk about UCLA. I mean, Alfred's bringing in some incredible talent. They've got a great recruiting class. Chris Smith is a 4-star forward. He's committed there. I mean, they're clearly moving back toward being serious title contenders. But I don't know if this team. I just don't know about this team being able to do it. And again, it's the defensive worries. And you know, look, I mean, they're also not really. You're not supposed to base future projections on current spread trends, but I kind of sometimes do. When you fall short, you know, maybe the odds makers, because the public is overrating them, the odds makers have to do the same thing. But they've covered 3 of their last 18 conference games, 3 and 15. When you're coming up that short of the number on a consistent basis, it means you're probably a little bit overrated. And I think that's the case with UCLA. And as far as this game goes, I also think that's probably going to be the case. I think they're going to be a little bit overpriced. We don't know what the odds will be yet. But I can guarantee you one thing. Regardless of the result, you're not going to be taking value if you bet UCLA in this game. The value will be on the USC side based on power rating. That doesn't mean it's going to win, but the value will be on the USC side, Jim.
Well, yes, I agree with that. And you said about overrated teams. I've noticed over the years that teams that can put up a lot of points become overrated.
Yeah.
That's what people focus on. They focus on the offensive talent, and you're scoring 90 a game or whatever the case may be, but they fail to look at what the defense is doing. So if you're scoring 90, giving up 85, you're not a very good team. You may get high ratings because you're winning, but you're not covering, and you're giving up a lot of points. And defense wins championships. It always has, always will. And when you get into these big games, you want a team that can shut the other team down. And because they're not going to be running up and down the court getting free baskets all the time. They're going to have to work for them, and it makes it harder to score. I like defensive ball clubs. And
by the way, one thing UCLA better not do on Saturday in the rematch is commit 17 turnovers. And Lonzo Ball, who's a great player, I think he had 7 of the turnovers himself. He didn't play well.
7 of the 17 he had, it was him.
This is a game where we were talking about betting second halves. This could be a game where you can get a feel in the first half and make a halftime wager that's a better bet than the full game. By the way, let me throw something out. If you and I know it's difficult to track this because you basically you can't have a life if you want to do this. but if you get the stats, first half stats, and when there's a lot of games in the schedule, it's really tough. But if you look at first half stats, I guess you can call it a system if you want. It's not bad. It hasn't been that good this year, but it's been good for the most part over the years. And you might want to up it a little bit in terms of the percentage you're looking for. But I like to look for teams that shoot better than 60% on threes in the first half. And because the thought is that there's probably going to be some kind of a regression to the norm. Again, it hasn't worked as well this year as it has in the past, at least on the games where I've been able to track it. I'm not home every night to do it. And that is something where you actually have to sit in front of the computer and box score, in-game box scores. There's the only way you can do it. But if you find these games where team shoots maybe 67% on threes, and I'm not talking about if they happen to have a half where they shoot 2 out of 3. I'm talking, 6 out of 9, one of those deals. That's an inordinately high percentage.
I saw that happen twice in the last couple days. Last night, where Pittsburgh shot 69% of the threes in the first half, and then, of course, then Virginia Tech came back in the second half and shot 50% from the floor. So they switched, and the same thing happened the other day with SMU against Cincinnati. Cincinnati could not miss, and SMU couldn't hit a shot. Second half, total reversal.
Total turnaround. Yeah, it's a nice little angle. Again, if you're not doing it every night, and I'll admit to being guilty on this myself, I can't do it every night. I do other things besides sit at home and look in the computer. At least I hope I'm doing other things. But if you do have the ability to sit home and monitor box scores, and pay attention to don't just do it in the marquee games. You can look at the Mid-American Conference and you get, I don't know, if Ball State's playing Toledo or something, and Ball State goes out and shoots 7 out of 10 in the first half on threes. Going against Ball State in the second half might not be a bad idea. I can pretty much guarantee you won't do worse than split your games. There's a good chance you'll win some money on that. Now, that's some free advice. If you want free plays every day on a recorded message from our Vegas experts, we have a number to call. It's toll free. It's 888-294-1970.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jim Feist Sports, and get free plays every day by texting GAME. That's GAME to 25827.
That's it. We hope you'll take advantage of the offers we've got this week. I think you'll be able to get in the black as far as the ink is concerned. So call the numbers, go to the website, and take advantage of the special offers. And meanwhile, we'll say thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week with another edition of Proline.